You see here, Todd Stevens. We have decided we're that excited enough for Guilds of Ravnica that we figure while the storyline has plane shifted over to Ravnica, we're gonna do that too with our names. It's Azorius Control today, and that's what we're gonna call it for Todd Stevens. On Brandon's side, just straight old Affinity.
We're not calling this a Grixis deck.
That's
there's some white spells in the sideboard.
We're not on Alara.
There's Splashing Wear Tear. This is 5-color Affinity.
Inspiring Vantage into Monastery Swiftspear. We actually
I'm
have the wrong deck
list.
Kid. Yeah, this is Brandon Kid on Burn. Our apologies. We're gonna get, it's not Sean Kid.
For shame, Nick Miller.
Wow. Well, this is a harder matchup for Azorius Control for sure.
Probably just walked up to the judge's booth, said, "Give me that kid's deck list." Anyway, but I think, Burn is going to be a much rougher go for Azorius than Affinity would be. And we see, this build that doesn't play red mana means that there's no Lightning Helix, which can be one of the better cards for the Jeskai deck against Burn.
Yeah, he does have one main deck copy of Timely Reinforcements, which would be great. But, yeah, a lot of his stuff is more expensive. Switching over to Terminus, a lot of it doesn't play as well. As we see Eidolon of the Great Revel here, turn 2 from Brandon. Swinging for 1, Todd to 17.
That was a check for Spell Snare. Todd Stevens not playing any copies, just no respect for the format. Does have Path to Exile. That's going to be good for 2 damage, though. All right, so now we're coming back across. We'll see if Stevens has a 3rd land, and it would be really opportune to have that Timely Reinforcements here.
Yeah.
Just a tapped Hallowed Fountain.
Would be timely, you could say.
You could say that.
Sean got the extra mana there off the Path to Exile. We pass back over to Kid.
And from here, Kid really does not want to make any more land drops, just wants to fire off a flurry of burn spells, come across. So there was a stomping ground there that could potentially turn on some green spells. Here's a main phase Boros Charm. That's going to go upstairs for 4 points and pump the Swift Spear. Over in Stevens' hand, I spot a couple lands and a Crucible of Worlds. These are not great matchups for those.
No, and he has Hieroglyphic Illumination as well. He's playing... So not to be outdone by the players who are all by Ben Nikolic, who's playing a Hieroglyphic Illumination. Todd's playing 2.
Yeah, we'll see if he finds a Terminus off it, and he doesn't. All right, and miss on the Miracle Terminus for the draw set. Found a Path to Exile. He's facing down 2 threats, and the Eidolon of the Great Revel is worth 2 points there. We will get life totals updated pretty soon. I'm sure, as y'all are aware, Todd Stevens has taken more than 2 damage over the course of this game. We've been working on getting our hands on the proper deck list, but we'll get this all sorted out. What you can tell is that Brandon is currently winning the game.
All right, here's Lava Spike being cast. So Todd either just went to 9 or is at 9.
The pre-combat made
drops to
sense
6
for the Swift Spear, but it was a little bit aggressive in the face of a potential Cryptic command.
Yeah, it was going to be Path to Exile from Todd on the Eidolon. That'll drop Todd to 4, however.
And still no plan for that Swift Spear.
So that would crash in and put Todd down to 2.
Yeah, that's the course we're on here.
Todd will opt.
Put most non-Terminus cards on the bottom of the library, I would assume.
It's interesting. If he was on Terminus or Bust here, the real Terminus or Bust play would have been to straight up opt with the Eidolon in play and just say, yeah, I'm just dead if I don't find Terminus.
Yeah.
You don't like that? That's too much.
I don't like going to 2 to try to make this happen. If you miss. So you can theoretically find Path to Exile here for the Swift Spear as well and still be in it.
That makes more sense. Opt. And that's not a Terminus. It's not anything Todd wants. Now he'll draw. That's also not a Terminus. That's a search. That's in a Search for Azcanta. So he has Crucible World, Search for Azcanta, and 2 lands. It's a combination. So you play Search, you mill lands with Search. Yeah.
Well, there's that.
There's the Terminus. It's a little late. And Todd's at 2.
It's possible that Brandon already has a lethal burn spell in hand.
Well, I believe he does, but the burn spell is Searing Blaze.
Ah.
So it's, you know, it's not lethal yet. But if he leaves up that fetch land, if Todd ever activates the Colonnade, he dies.
He does have to come across for lethal at some point, though with Teferi Hyria Dominario, there's one copy. Todd can find himself in a situation where, you know, theoretically just builds up, exiles all Brandon's permanents.
Before he
I would be pretty amazed to see this game go that way.
Yeah, he just has to do that before Brandon draws 2 points to burn.
Yeah, you know, there's another land, so we're
All
on
right.
track.
Search for Ascanta, bins an opt, transforms. Is there a life gain spell? I guess Timely Reinforcements is what he's trying to find.
That would be a big one. Draws Mana Leak against the burn player controlling 100 mana sources.
7. Yeah, that's a little much.
How many of these fetch lands are actually still live? We have 3 mountains, 2 Sacred Foundry, and a Stomping Ground, so we are shy 1 Sacred Foundry.
Yeah, Todd declines there to cast the Crucible. There's no real point. You don't want to get fetch lands back.
Yeah, just wants to go searching and wants to be able to find a counter spell off of the search.
And he's given his opponent, Brandon, 2 draws, and actually those draws have not materialized.
Yeah, this game is going on a bit longer than I might have anticipated, though both players kind of bricking back and forth. It's possible that Brandon's just full up on Searing Blazes at this point.
Yeah, but man, when that Colonnade's turned on, it's just going to be so much fire.
Yeah, just keeping that Sacred Foundry in the deck so that he can fetch that one up.
And Ryan, Todd has found Timely Reinforcements.
Ugh.
We might, Now, to be fair, Todd should be happy that it's not going to make 1/1s here.
Yeah. Turn on Searing Blazes.
I guess he just lose that 6 life. Todd keeps Logic Knot. He doesn't even want the Timely.
Okay, that is interesting.
All right.
Given that there's only 1 Timely, if he had a second copy of Timely, it would make sense to get a bunch of counter spells. That way you just have any lethal spell covered, and then when you cast a Timely, you can fight over something like, I don't know, burn spells in response.
Brandon has 5 cards in hand. What is going on?
Well, I see a Bloodstained Mire for sure. I think a Wooded Foothills to go with it. That's Searing Blaze.
I think he's found a Skullcrack, but he doesn't want to cast it at this point.
Yeah,
Todd finds Cryptic Command.
Face up Logic Knot already, right?
And face up Cryptic Command. He keeps passing. Brandon draws. This back and forth, Brandon can't keep playing this. Todd draws 2 cards a turn, and one of them's off search for Ascanta.
Right.
So he'll suspend Rift Bolt. Okay, I do like this because he's setting up for 1 big turn of lethal burn spells.
Right.
And try to tax Todd's mana. Todd top 4 again. Search for Ascanta, the best he can do. That's pretty much a miss.
Currently has 2.5 counter spells in hand, though at any turn where he needs to use multiple counter spells, the Mana Leak will inevitably become a hard counter.
Well, maybe. What if right here, if Brandon just end steps... I think I want to see Brandon end step the Skullcrack there.
Yeah, if you knew about specifically Mana Leak,
yeah,
then that would change things. The counter spells he knows about are the Logic Knot and the Cryptic Command.
So Cryptic counter draws for Todd. Now Brandon draws for turn. Boros Charm. Okay, he's got a lot of lethal burn spells here. If he has 3 more, it should work. Boros Charm, kill you.
I would like to counter that spell.
I see. And actually, here's a tough thing, Ryan. Brandon has, if he has, the Mana Leak's not live, is it?
Only one of these fetch lands can find a mana source, right?
Is that true?
I think there's 3 mountains, 2 Sacred Foundries, and a Stomping Ground.
Oh.
Now, I don't know, maybe Todd just doesn't cast the Mana Leak, but I think that this is something that comes up often enough, certainly playing a Path to Exile deck, where you get the idea that not all of the fetch lands are actually able to find something.
It was Logic Knot. That counters. Here's another fetch for Brandon. Here's another lethal burn spell. Skullcrack.
I mean, firing the Mana Leak off is the only thing Stevens has, right? So you may as well just put it on the stack.
Don't scoop here, Todd. Cast it. Cast it. Confirmed, so 3 mountains, 2 Sacred Foundry, and 1 Stomping Ground.
That's what it looks like to me.
Brandon's going to crack 2 fetch lands. Oh, this is going to hurt. Brandon, you don't have them, do you? Maybe he does. No, that was a Vantage there. So he's got 2. He still it was a Vantage on turn 1, so he has them.
Gotcha. Yeah, I thought that was a Sacred Foundry already in play.
No, it was an Inspiring Vantage from the first turn. So he shows the 2 Foundries. Yeah, Todd does check him on do you have the lands, and Brandon has exactly that. And he says, yeah, I needed that one. And he did. But Brandon Kidd does, it looked like he was going to run away with it, and then things got really interesting.
But yeah, after a longer affair than you might expect, Burn takes game 1 over Azorius Control.
So Brandon up 1-0, and now we'll look over to the sideboards. I actually, when playing Azorius, these are both decks that I've played some. When I play Azorius Control, this is actually a matchup I don't like. Azorius has so much board control. It gets a lot better in the post-board games, but...
Yeah, you get more stuff, but really, yeah, I've played a good amount of control decks in Modern. When it comes to beating Burn, the cards that I like are specifically Spell Snare and Tassiger the Golden Fang.
Yeah, you just beat him up.
Yeah, you want to win quickly and or have really efficient answers. Like 2-mana counter spells are actually pretty poor in the matchup.
Yeah, and win quickly is something that Azorius just can't do.
Right.
Which makes this hard. Now, post-sideboard, let's look at some of his options. He's got Surgical Extraction, Stony Silence, Negate, Ceremonious Rejection, Dispel, a 3rd Oust, a 2nd Timely Reinforcements, a Disdainful Stroke, is that his first Settle the Wreckage? That is his first Settle the Wreckage. And a Nimble Obstructionist.
Yeah, so the 2 Negates, they're quite good. The Dispel is a fair amount better than Negate. Sometimes you do catch a sorcery with them, though the mana efficiency in Dispel matters a lot. The Oust I can kind of take or leave. You'll always take damage if you're answering creatures with Oust.
Yeah, I think because it's the 3rd Oust, I want to leave it, and then the 2 main deck ones become interesting.
Right. Then the Timely Reinforcements is very good. I like that one, and that's really all he's looking at in his sideboard.
So Nimble Obstructionist can counter a Rift Bolt, if that matters.
I suppose it trades in combat, but it also costs 3 mana to do that.
Yeah, it's really narrow. I think it would depend on what the card he's boarding out for it is. The issue with Todd's deck is that he has moved away from counter spells. So in the main deck, he has 1 Negate, 2 Mana Leak, and 1 Logic Knot, and that's it. And then 3 Cryptics, not even 4. A lot of his stuff is board control, and that's going to make this harder. Drawing cards like Crucible of Worlds does nothing.
Right. Yeah, he had Crucible of Worlds in his hand that entire first game.
Yeah.
What was it going to accomplish?
Brandon's side, he's got a bunch of different cards here. Do you like any of them in this matchup?
Castle Lion, 3 Destructive Revelry, 2 Ensnaring Bridge, 2 Exquisite Firecraft, 2 Core Firewalker, 2 Path to Exile, 2 Rest in Peace, a Deflecting Palm, and a Stony Silence. Those 2 Exquisite Firecraft, they are quite good. If you're expecting to have your spells countered, well, that one can't be countered. It does not combine in a good way with Rest in Peace, though I already think that there's not enough graveyard stuff to matter for Rest in Peace anyway.
We're underway for game 2. Do you think Brandon brings in Destructive Revelries against blue-white?
There's only so many Search for Iskantas, and you're not expecting, I don't think, your opponent to play Circle of Protection red or anything like that. There's no real enchantments that people play in this format that just stop burn decks.
What about Crucible Worlds?
I would not be interested in interacting on that front.
Yeah. We're seeing on the end of the first turn, are we just seeing a Lightning Bolt upstairs? No, we're on the main phase. We're going to go with a creature of some sort. It's Monastery Swift Spear. Perfect time for Oust if Todd has one. I think he does. He'll go to 19 and then to 18. If you haven't played much with Oust, the card, 1 mana card from Rise of the Eldrazi. Another sorcery speed removal option. I feel like it shines against Birds of Paradise on turn 1.
Yes, that's the best spot for it.
Kind of card that then, not only do you remove their birds, but then they get to draw it a couple turns later.
And it looks like Todd had access to the oust, but passed on it, leaving up Mana Leak, which just really shows awkwardness of this card in this matchup.
Yeah, you wish it was something like Condemn here, because then at least he could have cast it.
Right. Yeah, there's a decent amount of Noble Hierarch in the modern format, and oust is quite a bit better there. But this is a matchup where you do get punished for this decision.
Yeah, and leaving up Mana Leak, Todd was hoping to catch something like Eidolon of the Great Revel. That Brandon is leading off this turn with just Lava Spike is somewhat punishing Todd for this play.
Yeah. And honestly, once you've left up this mana, you're a little bit priced into firing off the Mana Leak there.
You would have Mana Leaked the... I mean, he's going to get rewarded. Looks like there's going to be a post-combat spell for him to Mana Leak. But if Brandon had just spiked... If this had happened and then Brandon said go, I think that would have ended up being a misplay for Todd.
Right. Always be casting.
Well, especially in this matchup, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, spend your mana.
The game just kind of goes in a way where you take a small amount of damage every turn of the game. And at the end of the game, if you find yourself with a bunch of spells that cost 2 to 4 mana and 4 lands on the battlefield, and you can't realistically cast 2 of them that matter in a turn, those cards in hand just got mind twisted because you died.
Ooh, and actually here, they did, because Brandon's going to go ahead and suspend Rift Bolt. And so Todd, instead of using that Mana Leak, he now gets to cast an end-step Opt, and that white mana, that Hallowed Fountain, is just going to go to waste. So that is extra damage. Now he can oust, and he will, and can leave up Mana Leak.
Right.
Brandon reading that one. So card's second from the top, and Brandon gains 3 life.
Likely not a relevant factor of the game.
Second land and a pass for Todd. We'll see whether this Rift Bolt resolves. It does. Todd's down to 10.
If you weren't countering that Lava Spike, I think you're definitely not countering this Rift Bolt.
Mana Leak is up for Todd, so he'll get to counter the next play here from Brandon. Unless Brandon's hand is all instant speed burn at this point, in which case it's not going to work out as well.
Looks like there is another Lava Spike hanging out in there. The Mana Leak is not terribly popular in the modern format, and that would be the primary reason that I wouldn't really expect to see it played around.
Spike gets hit by Negate from Todd, and then Lightning Bolt main phase from Brandon. Todd's down to 7.
Yeah, Todd seems insistent on using this Mana Leak to catch specifically Eidolon of the Great Revel.
Yeah, I mean, he must have a hand that just can't beat Eidolon, so he's very concerned about the card.
Yeah, there's a lot of hands like that, right?
What I think is going to happen, though, is Brandon's going to draw Monastery Swiftspear next turn. And so then Todd will have to decide whether he's Mana Leaking that.
Yeah, and he just has this Terminus and Jace the Mind Sculptor in hand. And you can use Cryptic Command, but then you find yourself in this situation where you see he's fetching down to 6. He had the opportunity to Mana Leak a Lava Spike earlier, and if you're going to use your mana otherwise, you could just get 2-spelled pretty easily.
If Todd was at 9, he could in theory make Jace here. At 6, I am really skeptical about making Jace the Mind Sculptor.
I mean, like, what would you do, Jace, and put the Swiftspear on the bottom?
Yeah, that would be the play.
Yeah, leaving up Cryptic Command is reasonable. Though if there's just instant speed burn spells, it starts to get really dicey.
And it is. Brandon just said go there. It does suggest instant speed burn spells. He has a Monastery Swiftspear in hand that he just declined to cast. And now end step, he'll make a play. He'll go for Lightning Helix. Todd's going to counter in some regard.
And Lightning Helix, Boros Charm, very interchangeable here because Steven's already down to 6. It's just 2 burn spells are lethal. And going to 3, you just almost have to pick these fights. The one thing that Stevens kind of has going for him is that Kid only has 2 mana available. But if there's just another instant speed of spell available,
he's
just
going to
passes
say
the turn
go.
here. Exactly.
Here's Monastery Swiftspear. Todd's going to die with a handful of counter spells.
Only 2 of them. I would counter this spell.
Okay, you got spawn. Okay, at least you're going to counter the Lava Spike. That's good.
Can bounce the Swiftspear, I suppose. You might just have to draw a card.
Yeah, counter bounce. I almost, in that situation in Brandon's side, once the Swiftspear resolved, I almost just wanted to hit him for 1 and say go.
Yeah,
so
I'd be into that.
Yeah, she's like, whatever, man. I don't know what's going on. Punish you.
Right, so there was a land picked up.
So we can Jace plus Mana Leak on Todd's side. That's pretty good. And that's what he'll do.
Going to 2 would make Goblin Guide lethal.
Teferi was drawn in a stack of lands.
Right. Found Plains, which is quite a bit better than Flooded Strand. You can just play an untapped mana source and leave up that mana leak. If you can help it, he really does not want to crack a fetch land just because of Goblin Guide until he has that covered.
Says go. Back over to Brandon. Lightning Helix was drawn. He's got 2 lethal spells, both instant. Do you fire one off main phase and check your opponent on the mana leak, or do you end step try to overload him? He'll go for the main phase one. Todd does have the mana leak. I like this play from Brandon, actually.
Yeah, once he committed on the previous turn to like the Sorcery Speed, Swift Spear, Lava Spike, and now he's kind of in this pattern where when Todd did something proactive, it made sense to fire things off at Sorcery Speed again.
Yeah. Now it's like, I'm just going to challenge you to find a negate every turn. If you do it, you win, and if you don't, you don't.
Right. Also, Basic Plains Hallowed Fountain is a much more narrow set of cards than untapped 6 mana.
Todd will Brainstorm. Does not find the counter spell there. I think sequencing-wise, Todd may have wanted to lead on Teferi here.
Yeah, get an extra card down before you have to Brainstorm.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Well, also, he already knew about those cards, so I kind of want to see Fetchland crack to 2, then Teferi, then Brainstorm.
He didn't know about it. He ended up picking up Path to Exile, not a counter spell. So once you do have that information, going to 2 feels a lot safer. Before you have it, though, it is a little bit dicey.
He put the path back to Jace last turn.
Okay, that was still floating? Okay.
That was still floating.
Then it does make a bit of sense.
So now he will end up fetching down to 2. But, you know, instead of a lot of looks at a counterspell, now he's just got the Teferi. But if he finds it, I think Todd will be okay. If this Teferi draws him into a mana leak, a Logic Knot, a Dispel.
Negate.
Yeah, here's Teferi.
Yeah, the way this has been played out, it's very likely that Brandon just has 1 spell on the following turn.
Celestial Colonnade, though, is not going to do it.
All right. I mean,
I think there's a burn spell in Brandon's hand.
Yeah, Stevens only has answers for creature right now, and with the amount of mana available, it seems pretty likely that Brandon just goes for a Sorcery Speed action again.
It's going to Field of Ruin Brandon's Sacred Foundry.
This is a good Field of Ruin because the burn deck does not play Basic Plains. So you limit
if the second burn spell is a Boros Charm?
Right. Or a Lightning Helix.
And it might have been. I think it may have been a Lightning Helix. We'll see.
Yeah, we saw a kid previously fire off a Lightning Helix.
Okay.
And the way that the matchup plays out with cards like Timely Reinforcements mattering in terms of gaining life, it
oftentimes
seems likely,
a Skullcrack.
Yeah, that you would hang on to a Skullcrack.
Well, if it's a Skullcrack, then there's no... And Todd's about to die.
Right.
And we'll see. Brandon draws for turn. Draws
Path.
Why is Path in here?
That's
well, it doesn't matter. There's 2 Skullcracks in Brandon's hand.
Don't cast Monastery Swift Spear. All right.
And there we go. Brandon Kidd, 2-0, takes the win. He burns Todd down. And he does have to sweat it out there on that last turn. I think he knows if that Skullcrack got countered, he was probably not winning.
Yeah, things are going to get a lot worse. Stevens would be drawing from a fresh deck. He has access to, you know, however many cards, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Teferi, Hero Dominaria. But, yeah, was able to get it out just in time.
And I guess some respect on that Path to Exile for Brandon. There are a lot of, we've seen it with our Jeskai players this weekend, there's a lot of Lyras and Baneslayer Angels in sideboards. It's a bit slow for the matchup, but it's also totally unbeatable.
Yeah.